morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to just tell you a little bit more about Node Tech and what we're trying to achieve with internet connectivity into new and refurbished buildings. So Node was formed last year, and I think you've heard from some of our speakers this morning about how important the internet is to businesses, and we all know that from our own work experience. To hear Grace talk about not using Land Insight is like not having the internet, and then Tom was talking about 70% of internet disconnections are related to the physical infrastructure in the building, and so we've all got our own experiences of the internet and some challenges that we've had in our work environment. Is that on? Okay. So I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Is that probably what doesn't surprise you to know that 90% of the building stock in the UK was built before the internet came into existence. So when we're looking at commercial buildings in the refurb market, we've got a situation where we're trying to plumb the building for fiber connectivity in a building that wasn't really designed for it. And this information is courtesy of WiredScore. Three most important factors that tenants consider when they're looking for new office space is cost, connectivity, and location. So if you think about connectivity, even if you go back some 5 years, in your office environment, you were probably having your email server on site, you were probably having your file server on site. You've probably migrated to Office 365. You're probably using Amazon Web Services and a lot of cloud-based applications. So connecting to the internet is absolutely vital. And I find it quite interesting. I'm sure you've had the same experience that if you're working in a building and the power goes down, if you're working in a building and the water goes down, people tend to stay put. If the internet goes, as I think Tom said, everybody goes and finds the nearest coffee shop and carries on working there. So incredible reliance on the internet for connectivity. So given that scenario, wouldn't you think that connectivity would be something that is pre-plumbed into buildings, particularly new buildings? But it's quite strange how connectivity is often an afterthought, even in new buildings. New buildings are pre-plumbed for gas, water and electricity, but they're not generally pre-plumbed for telecoms. There's quite often just two ducts coming into the comms room, and as a tenant you have to go and make your own arrangements to connect to the internet into your tenant demise. And so connectivity happens over a period of time in a fairly unstructured way, sort of typified by the photograph on the left. And as a tenant you have to deal with all the way leaves, and communication providers will tell you there's some long lead times and long SLAs, and the whole experience can be a little bit fraught. Whereas really in the 21st century we should be aiming for something on the right-hand side here, something that's a lot more structured and has a lot more capacity to deliver internet connectivity to tenant demises. So really that's what Node's about. It's about providing hassle-free internet connectivity and bringing that whole process in a building into the 21st century. So we offer a state-of-the-art, professionally managed solution. We work with communication providers to provide choice in terms of connections to buildings and to provide true resilience in that building. We manage the way leave process. We take that pain away from the tenant and the landlord, and hopefully the connectivity for a tenant will be a much better experience. And just going back to the WiredScore presentation, Tom talked about gold, platinum, silver, bronze ratings. If you put a node in a building, it can help that building get from silver to gold to platinum in a very efficient way. So essentially, Node comprises two elements. It's the physical duct connections externally with the infrastructure providers to connect their fiber to the buildings, and it's a passive fibre network within the building that allows to connect with the tenants in that building. And for those of you familiar with the RIBA project phases in construction, we get involved in RIBA 1, RIBA 2, so scheme design, concept design, much earlier than comms is considered in most new developments. And we'll work with the communication providers, find out where their networks are, and help them to connect to our universal chamber and then into the comms room, so that's already on day one at practical completion. And of course that helps with resilience as well. And then for each building we have our own portal, and that helps prospective tenants to understand what communication providers are available live and connected to that building and what services that they can offer. So just looking at that schematically, really that's what we're trying to achieve. You've got your incoming fibre from the infrastructure communication providers, comes into the comms room, into our node hub, and then they use our passive fibre network that runs through the building to each tenant demise. So you put one cable in the riser to feed every tenant, and the whole connectivity process happens in a much more structured and controlled way. And graphically there, the diagram on the right shows what we're trying to achieve with the fibres coming into the building, into the comms room, and then horizontally and vertically up the building. And wherever possible where the building's been designed to allow for that, we'll run up 2 risers so we can feed each demise from a different direction and give some redundancy. We also like to try and provide a wireless link. You'll see there's a wireless link on the roof of this building. That's for gigabit connectivity, so high quality connectivity, and that just provides another layer of resilience and another opportunity for tenants. Security is a big issue to us. We think it's something that tenants are going to get increasingly concerned about in the future. So in our comms room where we've got our node hub, we have our own CCTV that's PIR controlled. If anybody walks into the comms room, the camera will activate. It goes off in our network operations center, and we can see who's coming into the comms room. If it's a scheduled visit, then that's great. If it's unscheduled, we're able to communicate to them through a speaker and microphone that we put in all our comms rooms. And then on the routes through the building, we don't just lay our cable on containment, on trays. We actually put it in box trunking with lids just to give an extra layer of security. So it's difficult for anybody to tap into it. So some of our buildings that we've node enabled recently, number 1 Spinningfields, premier commercial building in Manchester, 20 stories. Interestingly, tenants include WeWork. WeWork took 4 different communication providers from us, and we expected them to take 2 for resilience, but we were quite surprised they wanted 4, and when they said we need 4, we said, well, why did you need 4? And they said, well, our business is about connectivity and our reputation hangs on it, and we feel we need that level of security. Number 1 Spinningfields achieved a platinum rating from WiredScore, and our node helped to achieve that, and we also helped with another platinum building, Yorkshire House in Leeds. Wimble Green and recently completed Grade A commercial building in Manchester, opposite Manchester Central, or GMEX if you're familiar with that. And interestingly here, the landlords paid us to provide Wi-Fi throughout the common areas. So not just in the reception where we'd normally provide it, but in the stair cores, even in the toilets. That seems to be a really popular requirement for Wi-Fi. ABC building also in Manchester, a good example of a refurb, 60,000 square foot building, and we've actually got a node in there that's operating during the refurbishment. And then finally 125 Deansgate, great address in Manchester, coming on stream middle of this year. Just a little bit of our tenant feedback there that we've received over the last year. And sort of moving on from that now, we've now started with some national trials with portfolio owners such as Legal & General and Aviva to start to put nodes into their real estate. And then really, just to finish on, just to summarise what we're trying to achieve, It's a secure multi-operator connectivity solution for buildings, to bring the buildings into the 21st century, to make sure that connectivity is there on day one and tenants don't have to wait 90 days. We take away a lot of the pain with the wayleave process. We manage the risers so that they're secure and there's no damage to either the cabling or the building infrastructure. We're not just focused on fibre, but we also look at Wi-Fi and in-building 3G, 4G mobile, and the backhaul for that mobile can use our node network. And again, another area, not really time this morning to go into that in too much detail, but tenants are agnostic as to how they connect. They want fibre, Wi-Fi, mobile. They just expect it to be there. And a great wired score benefit if you put node into the building. That's me done. Thank you very much, and be happy to answer some questions.